first of all, congratulations on Contraction.
Yeah.
Wow, it was quite a watch. I was not expecting that. Very well done.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you.
let's talk a little bit about how you came to this story because the story it's short, but it's impactful. It hits you, it's intense, it hits you right away, right from from the first scene. So, how did you come up with this story?
Yeah. Well, first, thank you for watching and for enjoying it. That's awesome. I'm glad you did. And the story came out of basically kind of the friendship between me and Liesel, the star of the movie. We worked on a previous short film together, and even then we were like sort of back and forth talking about like something horror. We wanted to do that, and we were in Joshua Tree filming, and it was just kind of anything, any little thing was creepy when it was dark or whatever, and we were sort of just like in that mindset. And we sort of had that was sort of the start of the collaboration. And then when we sort of a couple months later, she was pregnant, and I was just I think we were just on a hike, and I was just asking like, what is the scariest thing about that to you right now? And she said giving birth alone. And for me, at first that could be like, oh, this woman giving birth in the forest, but that's not the story that I would be able to tell or should tell, really. I was more like, what if, like, on the day you started, going into labor, you realized that your husband, your partner was not the same. Something was off, something was different about him. Or is it even him? Like all those different things are kind of in there. And just that would be giving birth alone in that sense, that like, oh, my family is not who I thought it was. And that just feels really scary to me. So yeah, I think, and then we sort of, that's basically where it went, and we, back and forth, but it happened really quick because she was pregnant, and we had a cap on how when it was safe to film.
And even though this short film does fall into a lot of the tropes that a lot of found footage does, it takes it a step further to a point where it feels original, especially when she's looking through the footage and you're seeing her look through the footage.
Mm.
Was she always the actress that you wanted to have in front of the screen, or did that just come from the her availability?
I definitely always wanted her in it. And I think the actors in both, like Cam, also had like a he's awesome in it, I think. And it was like a hard performance, like because I didn't want him to be over the top loud or alien or whatever it is that people might think he is. Um, but Liesel was definitely like, I wrote it with her in mind, like from the beginning. And that was, like I said, the idea and the collaboration kind of came before the story itself. It was sort of like, oh, uh, I'm gonna write it. She's gonna star in it. And then it wasn't even like this is the first thing I've ever directed, so that even that wasn't necessarily part of the plan initially. I was sort of, once I wrote it, I was like, I want to direct this. Like and I've been thinking about wanting to challenge myself to do that for a while. So it just sort of, I think it surprised her initially, but then we made it work, and it was one of those things where we both, I think, just raised each other's expectations and kept making it better.
Definitely. Well, congratulations on making this a watch that is unexpected. That
Yeah.
that little ending p part where I don't want to spoil it. Ending with her that she when she starts feeling safe. How do you begin to direct something like that, or is that something that you guys collaborated with and just talked about in order to make her feel convincing when there's that relief at close to the end?
Mm. Um, well, so let's see. I would say, because it is hard to, if we're trying to avoid spoilers. But I guess I would say that, there, for the action sequences, and that there were action sequences, and she's 8.5 months pregnant while we're filming. So like we had a stunt coordinator, and we tried to, most of it is shooting around that. Like she's not jumping off the house like it looks like, because she's escaping at a certain point. And but like we mostly had to like tell Liesel to like slow down rather than the other way around. But that was the biggest concern, I think, filming was just like we don't want to overexert Liesel and go too far. I mean, that would be the nightmare, right? Like you hurt her or the baby while you're filming. So that was, I think, the hardest part. And then in terms of that end thing, I don't aside from maybe how cold the water was. But like the actual like I think scene itself and that I feel like that was almost natural. Like I feel like it was not very many takes at all for that. And for me, as a first time director, that was like the hardest part was to figure out when do I have it? And thankfully they both were really good. Like it didn't take very many takes on most things. It was mostly uh like it just they were on it. And I think there was just like this intensity the whole time and that getting well, I mean, I guess I'll just say that in terms of at the end, their kid shows up and you can edit this out or take it out or whatever you want to do. I don't know what you're doing. Um, and that was the hardest part. Like initially we actually tried with Liesel's daughter, and then we actually got one of her friends to do it and it's really just challenging like working with kids and being very respectful and also wanting them to sort of have the grasp of what's happening. Like, oh, your parent might be dead, like and trying to like actually make that a real response. Like that was a challenge, I think. And we sort of I think had to be creative on how to make it work. And I hope it worked, but also it being sort of open-ended kind of at the end and like just sort of weird also, I think just works. I don't know if that answered your question. I was like at first trying to answer it without giving you spoilers, and then I just sort of threw everything in there. But I can, yeah.
I don't think there's much of a spoiler there. I think you
Yeah.
need to see it in order to get what the answer is. But as a first time director, you went for it. You went to working with kids, which is not something that's easy. Was that the biggest challenge in this project, or what challenges did you have in making this?
I would say I mean, that was a big challenge, but like the kids were great to work with, and it was mostly the mental challenge of being like, oh, I can do this, because I didn't necessarily go to film school, and so there's that imposter syndrome, happening the whole time, and just being a writer, sort of that just a writer voice. But I would say, honestly, the post-production part and getting the pieces all together was the hardest part for me. And a lot of that was just figuring out in independent micro-budget films, it's really this like tension of you're getting friends, you're getting friends of friends to jump on board, and everyone's so talented and good, and you want to pay them like so much more than you actually can pay them. And I'm obviously working for nothing, and so I think the time frame, and people are all doing it outside of their main job, right, or the thing that's paying them. And so I think the time frame and that back and forth and fitting the time in between our jobs and our lives to make the project, that actually was almost the hardest part, if that makes sense. And so, but like, I mean, the hardest part was literally like the scene, we had a thing where we just wanted to roll the gnome,
Mhm.
and that was like, it was just rolling the gnome in front of the camera. And we never actually was able to do that successfully. So we just cut it, like we had to cut away before that gnome roll. And it was like one of the things that you just don't think about it being difficult. Like I didn't, when I wrote it in, or, seeing a gnome roll didn't seem like a hard thing. And that's kind of what it was. The experience of just like of filming is that like these little things you're spending like 20 minutes doing, and you're like, okay, this is a waste of time. Who cares? Well, if people want that gnome footage, I can send it to them.
Well, this definitely feels like a very high quality passion project. Even us getting to talk, it came through a mutual contact. So, how important was it to have people who saw your vision, who had the best interest for this project at heart?
I mean, it's exciting, it's nerve-wracking, and it's also, I mean, I think, uh, I mean, the experience of directing in some ways felt like, oh, this is what I should be doing in some ways, or like this is where I feel at home in some way. And obviously, there's a learning curve, and this isn't a perfect film, and there never will be. But like that brings with it this like sort of pressure, or I always put pressure on myself to deliver, to be good, to be worth the 10 minutes of your time to watch the movie. Uh, and I really obviously want people to enjoy it, and I want people to want more Andy movies and more movies with these people, these actors I think are incredible. So that is I that is the like it's a fear that people won't take it seriously or won't watch it or won't take the time, and it's hard to get people to watch anything, let alone a 10-minute weird thriller perhaps. Even though I feel like if you see the trailer, you will want to see this movie. I think the Will did such a good job with the the edit on the trailer. So I guess that answered your question. It's just I want to make more, and that's like so. I'm hoping the act of watching this and getting this out there to people will allow us to make more. Like that's and obviously enjoy this first one too, and not just continually think about the next project, but. Yeah.
On that note, how do you feel bringing this to film festivals and having people watch it? What kind of reactions are you looking for? What are your feelings going into, having people see it?
It's interesting because I don't necessarily have like a specific reaction I want. Like I'm curious, and it'll be fun to see it on the big screen with other people. Like I've actually never seen it on the big screen yet to this point. So that will be fun. And I'm bummed that I won't be at the NoHo CineFest in a couple of weeks because I one of my dear friends I am in his wedding. So it's in Buffalo, New York. And he actually was like a film student at college and one of the people that like inspired me to go on this path in some way. So it kind of feels like a it's a worthy person to miss this which I didn't know was going to be the premiere, but I think it will be our like theatrical premiere in North Hollywood, or I guess it's in Glendale this year, but it's still called the North Hollywood Cinefest. But I think to me, what is interesting is like what people will think is happening, maybe. I think that was something that was brought up a lot with just the actors and like, ooh, what is wrong with this guy, with their husband? Like what is going on? And I am curious to hear what people think and respond to and what it brings up. Because I don't think there's a right answer. Like, and I don't want to say what I think. I'd rather hear what other people, bring to it because I think that's cool. That's what makes movies the best, in my opinion.
Definitely does. And while this movie is a complete story, it has a beginning, middle, and end. It does feel like we can get more from it. Is there any plans to expand on this story?
Not at this time. If someone were to be like, "Hey, we want a feature film of this," I would figure it out. I would make that happen because I think you could definitely, spread this out and get a lot more into their relationship and perhaps give some answers to what the mystery or what is going on and kind of go even further with the concept. But I did sort of see this as not necessarily a pitch for a larger movie, but more of a pitch for the actors, a pitch for myself, and for the whole crew to just do more work and to tell the next story. Because I mean, I have a lot of weird shit in my brain that I want want to share. So that's I think more where I go. But at the same time, if you were to be like, hey, here's $1 million to make the Contraction, feature or something, I would of course do it. I think.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on this. It's very high quality, very good watch, and for this being your first directorial debut, it is up there. You know, it's very gonna be hard for you to top this.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, well, I hope in some ways, I hope I think they're each going to be a different experience, right? Like, I don't know if I don't want to go into things trying to top it because then you're just never happy, right? You're never satisfied. But that also, in some ways, feels like, I mean, certainly feels like me as an artist sometimes. But I am just proud of like what came out of this as like at first just sort of two friends talking about making a movie, let's do it. And then now it's, real and I'm talking to you about it. Like that's cool.
Well, congratulations and thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Jesus.